with the announcement of House of the Dragon, which of course, guys, is a spin-off of Game of Thrones, a prequel at that to Game of Thrones, one of the biggest, television series of all time. And I want to talk about everything that we know so far about this title, something that I'm really excited about, guys. I wasn't a huge fan of Game of Thrones, or I should say as much of a fan as some people were. However, I'm very excited to see where they go as far as how this fits into the ecosystem, the legacy, the lore, the story of Game of Thrones. And so with that being said, I want to go over, like I said, everything that we know right at this point in time about House of the Dragon, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. In an article, guys, written by Debbie Day of Rotten Tomatoes, from the main characters and key locations to the showrunners and potential plot points, here are the details you'll want to know about the George R.R. Martin creative spin-off series. So Game of Thrones prequel series House of the Dragon released a new teaser trailer in October that provides glimpses of its stars. HBO had most recently announced new cast and released first look images of the 2022 series' biggest stars in May. The series is based on author George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire book series and its companion materials, and is set primarily in Westeros during a time of great political upheaval. Set 300 years before the events of Game of Thrones, the series tells the story of a turbulent period for House Targaryen, one that sets sibling against sibling and dragon against dragon. The point of contention: who should rule on the Iron Throne? So, Dangerous Women includes what press materials describe as a 35,000-word novella by Martin called The Princess and the Queen, or The Blacks and the Greens, which is about the Dance of the Dragons, the vast civil war that tore Westeros apart nearly 2 centuries before the events of Game of Thrones. So first of all, guys, this being a prequel, I love this. I think that the Game of Thrones universe as a whole, what we know of it is, obviously, they made a number of seasons of Game of Thrones, and I thought that was awesome. The cool thing, though, about Game of Thrones is I feel like this, the story as a whole is very vast. There's so many different directions that they could go in if they wanted to do a prequel or a sequel potential, if George R.R. Martin wanted to continue that, but wanted to do a prequel. And I love this, that they're going to continue building upon what they started with Game of Thrones, that legacy, that lore, the story, as what I was alluding to earlier, of Game of Thrones as a whole. And so I absolutely love that they're continuing to do that here. Now, obviously, guys, George R.R. Martin is the one really helming this entire, prequel to Game of Thrones. His handprint is going to be all over this. Make no mistake about it. Obviously, guys, a lot of the actors and actresses that are going to be in this upcoming, story is something that I don't know a lot of. I do not know a lot of the actors and actresses in this. However, I will tell you that I'm pretty excited to see all of the entire cast and the entire, crew as to what it is they put together here in House of the Dragon. So, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this, guys. What is the release date is the big thing, big talking point for a lot of people. Well, a video teaser for HBO Max confirmed in December the House of the Dragon will be released in 2022. The teaser shows only a dragon roaring fire and a new glittering gold logo. Dragons are coming. House of the Dragon begins production in 2021 is what was tweeted from the official Game of Thrones Twitter account. What I will say is this, guys. Obviously, it's in production at this point in time, okay? It's definitely in production and has been now. And what I will say is that it's planned on coming out in 2022, which is awesome. This is going to be something I'm really excited about. We're going to be able to sink our teeth into it sooner rather than later. Now, it being 2022, it's hard to tell whether they're going to be, later in 2022 or early 2022. If I had to guess, I would say late 2022. So, when it takes place, the Targaryens landed on Dragonstone more than 4 centuries before the events of the original Game of Thrones series. The Dance of the Dragons was a war of succession fought from 129 to 131 AC, that is, after Aegon I's conquest of Westeros. What's the big conflict? The Targaryen Civil War was a conflict and the system of inheritance by a firstborn child, often the firstborn son. A lord's first child will inherit this castle and lands of his or her father over an older sibling, no matter what his or her aptitude for governance compared to a sibling's abilities. The Targaryens generally followed primogeniture, though there were expectations or exceptions, as during the rule of King Jaehaerys. I'm so bad, guys, with names, obviously, when it comes to Game of Thrones and the mythology and everything that goes behind the scenes here. I'm not very good with the names. But there definitely seems like there's going to be conflict. And then, guys, as far as the characters go, tons and tons of characters, lots of new characters, which is really exciting. And what's interesting is the locations. This is a talking point for a lot of people in the community. Talking about, King's Landing, Dragonstone, Driftmark, Dorne, Old Town Lies, the Stepstones, and Harriel. And all of those different areas that we're likely to see is something exciting, because some of those areas we're going to be able to explore more of and understand a little bit better as House of the Dragon continues. And so, look, guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest and the most, excited you could be for this, I gotta tell you, I'm pretty close to a 10 right now. I'm really excited for this continuation, even though it's more of a prequel than anything. How it's going to tie into the overarching story of Game of Thrones is something I'm really excited to see, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about House of the Dragon up to this point, what you've seen, and what are you most excited to see in it at some point or another in 2022? Let me know, and for more House of the Dragon content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.